My name is Michael Schmidt, a 26-year-old Marine who spent the last few years of my life serving my country. I've earned my stripes, gone from a private to a corporal, and I was determined to make a lifelong career out of it. But my real life, my family, that's what kept me grounded. My wife, Sophia, and our daughter, Lily, were my world. I had always thought of us as the perfect family. I would fight for them no matter what. But nothing in life stays perfect forever. That's something I learned the hard way. When Sophia and I first met, it felt like something out of a fairy tale. She was the kind of woman who made my heart race every time she walked into the room. Her smile, that soft laugh, the way she would twirl her hair when she was nervous. Everything about her made me fall deeper and deeper in love. I wasn't the kind of guy who expected perfect, but with her, everything felt, well, perfect. I remember the first time I kissed her. It was like everything else in the world disappeared. Her soft lips against mine felt like home. We got married 2 years after meeting. That's when I thought my life was truly complete. I loved her more than I could put into words, and she would always tell me how proud she was to be with a Marine. She understood the sacrifices I made, and I made sure to always show her how much she meant to me. Our house felt full of warmth and laughter. Sophia and I had a little tradition where every month we would travel to a new place, trying new food and exploring together. It was just the two of us, having fun, falling deeper in love with every passing day. When we had our daughter, Lily, it only solidified everything. She was the perfect mix of the two of us, her big blue eyes, blonde hair, and infectious laugh. I was proud to be her father. I promised myself that I would give them the best life I could, even if it meant sacrificing my own happiness. I knew the Marines would always come first, but when I was home, Sophia and Lily were my world. The first few months of marriage and parenthood were blissful. Sophia was an incredible wife, supportive, caring, and loving. She kept everything together when I was deployed. I would get updates on Lily's milestones through photos, videos, and messages. Sophia told me everything was fine, and I trusted her completely. At the time, I didn't even think to question it. Everything felt right, so why wouldn't I believe it? But over the months of deployments, I started hearing things from my fellow Marines. Little whispers, comments about how women married to soldiers weren't always as faithful as they seemed. It was just locker room talk, right? They would joke about how wives would get lonely, how they would find someone else to keep them company. I ignored it, telling myself that my Sophia wasn't like that. But now, in hindsight, maybe I was just too naive to see the signs. The first crack in our perfect life came slowly. I didn't notice it at first. Being deployed and away from home for months at a time took a toll on both of us. I'd call Sophia as often as I could, but the conversations became shorter, less intimate. At first, I thought it was just the stress of being a new mother, dealing with Lily, and running the house on her own. But soon, I noticed something off in her voice. There were moments of hesitation, awkward silences, as if she wasn't entirely herself. She started to get distant, and that worried me. I'd come home from a deployment, and instead of the warm, excited greeting I was used to, there was something almost forced. It was like she was putting on a mask to hide her true feelings. I would brush it off, thinking it was just the stress of having to hold everything together while I was gone. Then, there were the late nights. I would call her, and she'd say she was tired or busy with something, but when I asked about what, she'd get defensive. It was small things at first, like how she wouldn't answer her phone for hours, or how she would suddenly need to go out with her friends on the weekends. I trusted her, of course, but doubt started to creep into my mind. I kept pushing those thoughts away because I didn't want to believe them. But then came the pictures. I saw them on social media, photos of her out with friends, laughing and enjoying herself. But in one of them, there was something that didn't sit right with me. She was too close to a man I didn't recognize. I had never seen him before, but he was smiling at her in a way that felt too intimate, too familiar. It gnawed at me, but again, I pushed it down. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. I told myself I was overthinking things. It wasn't until the next few weeks, when I noticed her disappearing for hours at a time, that the signs couldn't be ignored anymore. She would say she was going to run errands or visit a friend, but I started finding little inconsistencies. Her excuses didn't match up. Something was off. Still, I wanted to believe that I was wrong, that my fears were just a product of the long deployments and my overactive imagination. But deep down, I felt the truth coming, like an approaching storm. I had just gotten back from an 8-month deployment in Asia. It was one of the hardest ones yet. The whole time, I was thinking of my family, how I couldn't wait to get home. I dreamed of Sophia and Lily, about what I would do when I saw them again. The thought of holding Lily in my arms, of kissing Sophia and finally being able to hold her close again, kept me going. I took the 12-hour flight home, my heart racing with anticipation. When I finally walked through the door of our house, everything felt too quiet. I expected Sophia to be there, waiting for me, her arms wide open. But there was nothing. The house was empty, silent. It was so unlike her. I sat down on the couch and dialed her number. No answer. I left a message asking where she was. Still, no response. I tried again. Nothing. A knot formed in my stomach. I didn't want to overreact, but the feeling of unease kept growing. Then, I heard something. A thumping noise coming from the basement. It was faint, but unmistakable. I stood up, my senses sharpening. It wasn't just the normal sounds of the house settling. This was different. It sounded like someone was moving around down there. I crept toward the basement door, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but my gut told me something was wrong. I opened the door slowly and stepped down the stairs, my feet barely making a sound on the soft carpet. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, the sound became clearer, a man's voice moaning. My stomach dropped. I could feel the blood rushing to my head. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And then I saw them. Sophia, my wife, was on the bed, kissing and touching a man. I froze for a moment, my heart in my throat. I recognized him. It was James, a guy I went to high school with. We weren't best friends, but we knew each other well enough. I couldn't process it at first. The shock paralyzed me. I thought I was imagining it, that I had walked into a nightmare. But it was real. Sophia, the woman I loved, was cheating on me. The moment I saw them, rage flooded through me. I didn't care that James was on my bed, the bed where I had spent countless nights with my wife. My instincts took over, and I stormed in. The man was still trying to hold on to Sophia, but I yanked him off the bed. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was angry, betrayed, and hurt all at once. I pushed him down, throwing a punch that landed square on his face. He was quick to defend himself, but I wasn't holding back. I didn't care about the consequences at that moment. I wanted to make him feel the way I was feeling. The anger surged through me, every punch a reflection of the pain I was enduring. Sophia screamed at me to stop, but it only fueled the fire inside me. She kept saying she was sorry, but her words felt empty, hollow. I didn't want to hear them. I didn't want to hear any of her lies. "I'm sorry, Michael. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. Please don't hit him." "I love you," Sophia pleaded, her voice cracking. But her words didn't reach me. They couldn't. All I could think about was the betrayal, the hours I had spent away, the trust I had put in her. And now, she had shattered it all. James tried to get up, but I shoved him back down. I was done. I needed answers, but I wasn't sure I could trust anything that came out of her mouth. "You knew I was away. You knew what you were doing," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to Lily?" Sophia burst into tears. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lonely. James is just a friend. It didn't mean anything. But the words didn't stop the storm raging inside me. It didn't stop the reality that my wife had betrayed me. 3 times, she confessed through her tears. It only happened 3 times, Michael. Please, don't leave me. After the confrontation, everything felt like it was falling apart. Sophia begged for forgiveness, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her. Every time I looked at her, all I could see was the betrayal. All I could think about was the lies. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, had chosen another man over me. But it wasn't just the affair that cut deep. It was the realization that I had been blind. The signs had been there all along. Her distance, her behavior, the way she avoided me when I returned home. I couldn't believe how I had missed it. As time passed, I began to realize something else. The Marines had always been my calling, but my family had been my heart. I couldn't lose them. But could I live in a marriage that felt like a lie? Could I really stay with someone who had broken my trust in the worst way possible? The consequences of Sophia's actions were undeniable. Our relationship was never the same. Every attempt at reconciliation felt forced, artificial. I was going through the motions for the sake of Lily, for the sake of the family I had always wanted. But the damage had been done. Sophia's friends stopped visiting. Her calls to family became less frequent, and it was obvious that her relationship with James had come to an end. But the damage lingered. Her tears didn't undo the hurt. Every time she apologized, it only reminded me of what had happened. I couldn't trust her anymore. That much was clear. I decided to stay in the Marines. I decided to focus on what I had always known. But the truth was, no matter where I went or what I did, the betrayal stayed with me. If you've ever experienced something like this, you know how hard it is to find peace in the wreckage. It's not about moving on. It's about surviving the aftermath. And now, as I sit here, thinking about what I've lost, I want to hear your thoughts. Have you been through something like this? How did you handle betrayal? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales of heartbreak, betrayal, and lessons learned. Life is full of twists, and we all have our own stories. But remember, you're never alone in facing them. Stay strong, stay true, and stay ready for whatever comes next.